Praise the Lord Jesus Christ. Welcome to Bible for Overcomers. So here's the topic for today. What about moral nuance? There is plenty of gray matter out there as you navigate life, as you study history, as you look around you, as you start to pull away from the matrix and really look at things for what they are. You realize that they play on the masses by always, and this is nothing new, but it's always a good guy versus evil. And you, of course, are the good, and we must hate the evil. We must destroy this other group. And, the simple-mindedness is dangerous, because what you'll do is you'll be supporting wars and carnage and all kinds of things because you've gotten convinced, and there's some weak-minded pastors about this too, that everything is black and white, that everything is good versus evil. And yet I'm going to show you from the scriptures about 4 examples or so very quickly of where moral nuance is a thing, and that we should always be careful of how we view the world. So recently I was in a fast food place, which I don't normally go to, by the way, and I think I was having a cup of coffee there, and I heard these 2 girls sitting next to me, and the one girl said, it's really annoying. I was watching a movie, and my dad, he comes in, and he's kind of simple-minded in that he said, what movie are you watching? Like, who's the good guys and the bad guys? And I said, Dad, it's not really that easy. There's a lot of things in flow in this movie, and some of the characters, they do different things. He says, nonsense. Everything in life is good versus evil. It's, just tell me who the good guys are and who the bad guys are, and I'll sit here and watch it with you. And I thought, yeah, that is a shame. That people actually can navigate through life believing that everything is one way or the other. Now, sometimes, of course, there's no doubt what is evil and what is good. But I'm going to show you some examples from the Holy Scriptures real quick. Let's just think about this. In Genesis, I think it's about Genesis 27, 25, somewhere in there, you have the story of Rachel married to Isaac. Isaac now is getting older, and his eyes are growing dim, and her fave is her son Jacob. Certainly not the firstborn Esau. And so she and Jacob, have a plot to get the blessing from Isaac before he dies by feigning to be Esau. And Jacob is the trickster. So many of us, we think, oh, well, he's one of the patriarchs, the children of the promise, that line, that small remnant of Israel, because as the scriptures say in Romans, they are not all Israel, which are of Israel. But you always had that small the small remnant. Well, that remnant runs through Jacob. But yet he was a trickster, and he fooled his father. So we would say that is not just a lie, but it's a running fraud. And he received the blessings of the firstborn. That's example number 1. Here's another one. When the Israelites were coming into the promised land, and they're getting ready to cross over the Jordan River and absolutely annihilate these 7 Canaanite tribes in the Holy Land. Of course, they never did accomplish their entire task at the time. But the first city they bump up against, the first real city, is Jericho. And so there's a prostitute in the city, Rahab, and she encounters the Israelite spies that had come to spy out the defenses of Jericho, and she hides them, and they do a deal with her. And so they said, you protect us, you hide us now, so we're not executed, and when we do take this city, you'll be protected, you and yours. Well, she does the deal, and the spies leave, and then her own countrymen come and inquire, did you see the spies? And she just flat out lies. Well, many Christians say, oh my goodness, she's lying. She can't be used of God in that state. Again, this is not to excuse sin. It's just to show you there is moral ambiguity out there. Well, she hides them. She lies for them for the greater purpose that, of course, Jericho falls and she is saved. And by the way, she's in the genealogy of Christ himself. So that's something to think about. And yet another example, 2 Kings chapter 5. You have Naaman, who is a Syrian general, the head Syrian general, hears about Elisha down in Israel, and says, maybe this man can heal me of my leprosy. He goes down. Elisha has him to dip himself in the Jordan River. There's a little scuffle about Naaman not wanting to do that, but he does, and he's immediately healed. And then he tries to give Elisha a reward, and Elisha won't take it. But then Naaman realizes that he's going back to his heathen country, and he's the right hand there of the king, and he now knows who the true God is. Okay, so you have to understand this verse. Here it is, 2 Kings 5 and verse 18. So he says to Elisha, Naaman says, "In this thing the Lord pardoned thy servant, that when my master," talking about the king of Syria, "goes into the house of Rimmon," this is yet another one of the gods, the false gods, to worship there, and he leans on my hand. In other words, he puts that political, social pressure on me that I need to go with him. And I bow myself in the house of Rimmon, knowing that Rimmon is now nothing. Okay, this is the difference. He's not praying, he's not worshiping Rimmon. He's just doing this because he pretty much has to for the safety of himself and his family. And when I bow myself down in the house of Rimmon, the Lord pardoned thy servant in this thing. And Elisha said to him, "Go in peace." He understood. There's some real moral nuance. I'm trying to think. So I know there was yet another example I was going to bring out, but there's more in the scriptures if you can search for them. But you have Rahab, you have Jacob, you have Naaman. How many other places do you find, both in life and history, in the scriptures themselves, where you encounter moral ambiguity and you say, well, God could never use a person like that, or we must not do this, even though it might bring destruction to those around you? I think sometimes love thy neighbor has to really be considered. What does that mean? For example, how well are you loving your neighbor? Here's some moral ambiguity. You're in a line. Now, I live in a city that's one of the fastest growing cities in the country per capita, and the traffic is just unbelievable, and the roads haven't kept up with it. So we have plenty of 2-lane roads, and you're going, there's 70 cars in a line. Now, somebody that couldn't have come out at the right intersection where the light is, they want to cut into that line of traffic way up by the front, coming out of a parking lot. Now, everybody knows they're cheating, but they try to make eye contact with whoever happens to be right there in that line. And this person, I've seen this many a time, they want to feel like they're doing their good deed for the day, in that they're going to hold up traffic and let this person come in, even when the light in front of them turns green, knowing that it's going to take time for that, get that person's attention, get them to come out, merge properly, and get into the flow of it. And meanwhile, when that light turns red, about 5 to 7 cars that wouldn't have been caught if this guy hadn't done that, hadn't let in this cheater, they would have made it. And now, they're a little bit more behind on getting to work. Now, that person who let him in, he's going to make the light, and he feels good about himself. He pats himself on the shoulder. He said, well, I loved my neighbor. Were they not your neighbors behind you? And these are the kind of things that we encounter in everyday life. And here's some examples in the scriptures where moral nuance and where you need to really use wisdom, and that's why Proverbs screams at us to pray and to seek after, to acquire wisdom, discernment and wisdom, and then knowledge, to navigate through life. And that's all I got. Just wanted you to think and consider about these things. There's a lot in the scriptures when you look, and there's most definitely, I could have given you the example of Judah, and we know that Christ comes from the tribe of Judah, and you can see the original, sexual immorality of Judah, of which the tribe, is named for. That's another one of gross immorality, and yet God used that person. God used Nebuchadnezzar, did he not? A heathen king. God used Cyrus, who proclaimed that the temple could be rebuilt. And so Zerubbabel set forth. There are plenty of examples of God using people or situations in life which are not exactly black or white, not exactly good or evil. So something to consider.